Hi again guys, welcome back to another Big L Devlin video, and today what we're going to be discussing is essentially what is called the waking dream or the waking death. It has a variety of different names according to what clan you come from and who taught you about it, but for me I call it the waking dream. Now the waking dream is a very specific experience someone can have following death. And that might sound a little bit weird because death, for most people, is a finality. Once you die, you tend to stay dead, okay? But there is a certain condition that can occur amongst pagans where you die but don't stay dead, you come back. And the waking dream is an experience you have following this process. And it can really mess you up, but it's a transitional phase between who you were before and who you are going to become after having gone through this transition. Now the reason I'm doing this video is because there are a number of people out there who are desperate, because the waking dream is not a pleasant experience. It's an incredibly unpleasant experience to go through, and you don't always successfully transition through it. You can in fact go mad from it. And you can go so insane or so desperate in the negative feelings that it can sometimes give you if you don't understand what's going on, that you can lead to death. You take your own life, unfortunately. Suicide is very, very common for that amongst those who suffer the waking dream. I myself have had it. I had a death-like experience at the age of 28 on the 13th of November 2016. I was in an incredibly severe car crash, and I was, for all intents and purposes, for a period of time killed. Okay, my heart stopped, and you can see that on my ECG. When you see an ECG of my heart, you can see the kind of scars that were left in my heart from the time period that it had stopped for. How long it stopped for, I don't know, but for most people, when your heart stops, that's death. Okay. And I was unconscious, or I was not of this world, for roughly 30 to 35 minutes before I re-awoke and became aware of where I was and what was going on and everything like this. Now, having gone through the waking dream myself, having gone through those experiences, this video is really here to guide those who have gone through similar things but don't know how to get through it. They don't know how to go through that waking dream. They don't even know what it is. This is what I'm here to do, to tell you what it is and to hopefully guide you through it, because it would be a shame to lose someone out there who is going through what I can only describe as a really horrific experience, but something that is very beautiful at the end, something that is unbelievable at the end once you get through it, because your mind is so awakened to other things that you would otherwise be unaware of without having gone through that horrific experience of death. Now the waking dream is, as I say, a transitional phase, and it's not a transitional phase of going from death back into life. You die, you come back straight to life. Okay, that kind of transition is very quick. It's almost, it's as instantaneous as it is that you essentially become aware again, conscious again. But what it is a sort of transition of your mind going from being closed to being open, to being aware, and this expansion of your mind, or what we call the HUD. Okay, within this particular aspect of your soul, in essence, this HUD has been greatly expanded through the death experience. This is what causes the waking dream, and if you're not guided through it, it can be very, very, very difficult to cope with. So before we go on to describe what the waking dream is, how to cope with it, and where it eventually leads to, let's just sort of give a background to what it is, and a background to some of the concepts of what death is to a pagan, what HUD is, for example, because without a solid knowledge of what these things are, I don't think I'm going to make much sense to you. Okay, so bear with me. I'm going to describe the concepts behind pagan beliefs, behind death, behind fate, things like this, which then show you how this impacts on us when we have gone through a death experience and has led us to become who we are now, to go through that waking dream experience in essence. So in modern beliefs, death is basically instantaneous, in the sense that once you die, there is an almost instantaneous transition of your soul, which is you as a person, but in spirit form, that then travels almost instantaneous to whatever afterlife you're destined for. Okay, this is pretty much the same amongst all the modern belief systems. However, paganism is a very ancient belief system and actually quite alien to the modern viewpoint. So it sees things in a completely different way, and an alien concept in essence to most people. It doesn't make sense until they really kind of try to get to grips with it. But because pagans, we don't actually believe in souls as such. We do, but it's in a completely different form, as I say, much more complicated form than that simple sort of example I've just given to you. Instead, pagans believe that every part of us, in essence, is a different composite part of our soul. So even our bodies, literally our bodies, which we call our leek, okay, are a physical manifestation or part of our soul. When we die, and our consciousness, which is another part of our soul, which is a combination of our muni, and our madi, which is our thoughts or our mind, madi, which is our emotions, our feelings, and muni, which is in essence our memory, our ancestral memory. All of this combined essentially makes us who we are, our persona, our person, our personality, our thoughts, our conscious selves. And that is what then travels then to a spiritual afterlife, which then, could be Valhalla, for example, if you're a Viking and all the rest of it, okay? But the other parts of us, there are other parts of us that are spiritual that either house this consciousness. So there's the Hamria, which houses the consciousness in the spiritual realm, but it's still a separate part to our consciousness. Our physical body that is left behind is still part of our soul, but it is a remnant, an echo, if you wish, that is left in the physical world. And attached to that, you get physical hybrids, almost called like the Vard. The Vard will stay behind and will stay with your body. That's a spiritual analog of yourself. It has your thoughts, it has your memories, but it doesn't have your emotions. And so this would be in theory the ghost of yourself that is left behind. And I can keep going on. It's very complicated, the pagan soul. I'm pretty sure you can see there's a lot of composite parts. So upon death, there is no simple bang, instantaneous transition of your consciousness to the afterlife, okay? Because there's so many different parts of you, and they're all interwoven very tightly together. And so these weavings essentially must undo themselves slowly. And so there is a leak, if you wish, an actual leakage of your soul out of you upon the point when your body has died. So when your body dies, your physical body dies, your soul will begin to dissociate from your body, your physical body. Okay, and it will leak into the spiritual world, into your afterlife. So it won't just kind of dissociate and wait till it's fully dissociated and then go. It will do it gradually, and more of your consciousness will begin to enter the spiritual world and the afterlife, and you'll become gradually more and more and more aware the longer you're dead of this spiritual world until you are fully within it. Okay, and this is essentially how death is, or the moment after death is for a pagan. So it is possible to be dead. It is possible to be dead for half an hour, for example, and still have a tether to your body. Your soul will not have completely left, but to also have enough awareness that when you are gone for that period of time, that half an hour like I was, you are actually been away from your body long enough, your consciousness has seeped into the afterlife enough for you to become fully aware of the afterlife. So you still have a physical tether, but you are actually more in the afterlife than you are in your body at this point. When I died, I had that experience. Okay, I saw my afterlife. I went to Fault Van Geer, which I had no idea what Fault Van Geer was at the time, so it wasn't like an hallucination or anything along those lines. I couldn't have imagined this place because I had no knowledge of it. But I passed there, and to me, as I say, it was as real experience as it possibly could be. Now, at this point, I'm dead. Okay? I'm well and truly dead as well. You're dead from the moment your body dies, in theory, in paganism. Okay? It's not when your soul has fully moved into the afterlife. You're dead once your body's dead. That's it. Okay? On the physical terms, you are dead. Okay? So it doesn't really matter how long you're gone for. You could be gone for a couple of seconds. It doesn't matter. But this is the key aspect. When you die, what are you doing as a man or woman? You are fulfilling your fate. And fate is very important to pagans. Men, the gods, the universe itself is ruled by fate. Fate is what causes things to occur, from potentialities or possibilities to become actualities, so to become actions, to become events, to become life experiences. Fate is that driving force that causes that transformation. And fate is something we all have. And we are all fated to be born on a certain day and all fated to die on a certain day. Okay? And as far as men go, these are as close to destinies as you get. Destiny is something slightly different to fate. Destiny is a form of fate, but destiny is an unmalleable form of fate. It cannot be changed. It cannot be rewritten. Destiny is destiny. It is forged in stone, so strong that it will occur no matter what you do. Whereas fate can be manipulated. Fate can be changed. Okay? And to be honest, destiny really only applies on the grandest of scales. Gods don't really even have destinies. They're ruled by fate. They have fates, and they have strong fates that are very hard to avoid or change in any significant manner. But they're not really ruled by destiny either. It's the universe that has destinies, and that destiny is the birth of the universe, the death of the universe, and then the rebirth of the universe. There are certain key points in the universe's lifespan that must occur at certain points in time, and they're unavoidable, completely unavoidable. Okay? But what we see is from that grander scale, we see as we go down there's no hierarchy. All life is equal, right? We are equal to the gods, and animals are equal to us, plants as are plants and everything like this, as are inanimate objects, which are made of the same stuff as we are. You know, they may not have an awareness, but they still are forms of life in paganism, and everything is equal. But in theory, as we go down from God to whatever and all the rest of it, we find that we all mimic. Every single one of us, every single part of the world and the universe around us, the material world and the spiritual world as well, mimics this lifespan of the universe. We are all born, we all die, and we are all reborn. This is just one of the cycles that this is unavoidable for everything in this world. And so when we are fated to born, when we are fated to die, this is important because, as I say, they become closer to destinies than any other point in our life, than any other fate that may exist in our life. Such as, are we fated to meet our loved one or not? Doesn't really matter. What matters is our birth and our date of death. And so, if you are fated to die, it is actually, in theory, the meaning of life, in essence, and it sounds very morbid, and there is more to it than this, but the meaning of life is to live, but it is also to die. The meaning of life is to fulfill your fate, to live your life, to live it to the fullest possibility that you can, but also to accept your death when it comes, and to fulfill that point of death, because it is fate. You must fulfill your fate. And this is exactly what happened to myself and others who have gone through the waking dream experience. We satisfy fate because we die when we are supposed to die, and we stay dead for a reasonable period of time. So much so that fate moves on and progresses. But then we come back. We don't stay dead. For some reason our heart restarts. We gain consciousness. We revive. Somehow. Who knows how? Whether it's sheer willpower or the action of the gods. You could argue one way or another on that, and it could be other reasons also. We're not here to discuss how we come back, but there are those of us who have come back from death without medical assistance. And this is one of the key things I want to say, is those who go for the waking dream are people who have died and come back without being revived by another person, by another man or woman, okay, by the ambulance services, for example. Because, of course, if you do come back by the actions of someone else, it was their fate to revive you, and it was your fate to kind of die, but not to be revived, to be brought back by them. And so that is not your day of death. That is a day where you were fated to have a death-like experience. Later on is when you're fated to die, okay? But when you actually die, and you're not brought back, but you come back for your own volition, or for the gods' ambitions, this is when you become now a fateless man or woman. This is when you lose fate. You're no longer ruled by fate. You become a pariah in essence, an anathema, I think is the word. But let's stick with pariah. I don't want to get too complicated with my language because I don't know if I'm saying that right. But what I'm trying to say is you become this thing that no longer has or is ruled by fate, and it's terrifying. When you realise that, you know, we all go through life and we all feel like we're going somewhere specific. We all have that kind of, like we're on a current. Whether you're aware of it or not, you sometimes you will become aware of that you are flowing through life and it feels right, that you're going towards where you're supposed to be. And sometimes it feels like you're off course, but life has a way of bringing you back onto course, yeah? And getting you to where you're supposed to be, which is ultimately your death, okay? But ultimately is also the fulfillment of your life in between your birth and death, okay? When you come back from, as I say, this death experience, people like myself, you immediately begin to experience what's called the waking dream. Part of this is the consequences of no longer having a fate. There's no current driving you forwards. You rely purely on your own willpower to forge your life, to forge your whatever is ahead of you in your life. You can't call it destiny now. You can't call it fate. You have to rewrite it all for yourself. You're no longer guided. And that's a terrifying experience. It's like having as a child and being left alone for the very first time by your parents who go out on a night out, and you're afraid. No one's holding your hand anymore. So there's this aspect behind it. But there is far more than this. During our death, as I say, there is a leakage, if you wish, of the soul, okay, into the afterlife. We go into the afterlife, and then all of a sudden you snap back, okay? And I've described my experiences many a time on this YouTube channel. You'll probably see around here at one point links to videos that describe how I experienced death. Okay, I've done a few videos. I'm not going to talk about it here because it'd be too long a video otherwise. But you come back, and when you come back, not all of you comes back, not fully. Okay, our body, our physical body, is a vessel, if you wish, that contains our consciousness. Okay, it contains, as I say, our hugla, our madi, and our mini, our mind or our thoughts, our memory, and our mood, our emotions, and these collectively form our consciousness and awareness of the world around us. And our awareness is of the world around us, but there is a secondary level of awareness within us also called our HUD. Our HUD is part of our soul. It's called it translates as ecstasy, the ecstasy of the gods, or the madness of the gods. And this is an awareness of something greater than not only just life, not only of death, not only of what is after death, but everything that kind of links it all together. You see all of a sudden when your HUD reaches a certain level, a level of awareness in an individual that they just understand fate. They understand the secrets of the universe, in essence. Their level of awareness has risen to such a level that they can see things in such an abstract form that you can't really begin to put words to it. And by going through a significant death-like experience, by undergoing, surviving your death, your actual death, your fated death, by surviving your fated death, what happens is that leads to a sudden massive expansive increase of your HUD, because you enter the spirit realm. You are almost fully within the spirit realm, depending on how long you've been there. And you have seen the spirit realm. You've become aware of it. To you, now, it is a reality. There's no questions. There's no doubts. I don't have any doubts. I don't think, I wonder if there is a God or not, or, whether the gods are real, or whether there's an afterlife. I know it. I've seen it. I've experienced it. It's real to me as it is this world around us. And in fact, when you die, when you begin your waking death, that reality that you experienced of the afterlife is way more real than the reality that you've come back to. The physical world seems like a dream world. That's why it's called the waking dream, because you walk around through physical life thinking you're still dead. I'll explain how I had. I thought that I must either be in some kind of limbo, some coma, or some kind of dream, or that I thought I was in some kind of transitional afterlife where everyone around me was either angels or spirits, those kind of things, and they were making me ready to move on to whatever the final afterlife was. Even though I knew of that afterlife, it was playing on me so much. I was so confused that I actually thought that I was dead, okay, and that I was a spirit. And I remember I went to my mum and I begged her, because I thought she was a spirit, and she was obviously helping look after me, and I begged her. I said, just send me back to the real world as a ghost. I don't care if my family can see me anymore or experience me. I don't care if I can't do anything for them, but I just want to go back to watch over them, to make sure they're safe, make sure that they have good lives, to try and influence them in some ways, to watch them and love them. And I don't care if then once they go, I'm trapped in that eternity of damnation or whatever. I don't care. I just want to see my family live. That's all I want to do, and it really is an emotional experience to turn to someone who is living, who is your mom, and to turn to them and actually talk to them as if they're a spirit, and to beg them to send you back to the real world. You know you're dead, and you're saying you're lying. I know you're trying to tell me that I'm living. I'm not. I'm dead. I know I'm dead, and I want to go back. I don't want to go to the heavens over there. I want to go back to the real world. Just to watch over my family. And that is the genuinity of the feelings that you will have going through the waking dream. The horrific experiences of that despair and damnation almost, that you feel that you're trapped in a limbo, an area of suffering. You will get to the point where you believe you don't need to eat. I don't need to eat because, I'm dead. Dead don't need to eat, Things like this, you'd be like, whatever. And the way that I came to cope with it in the short term, why I didn't lose my mind, was that I came to believe that, if this is an afterlife, it's not a pretty bad afterlife. I've still got my family around me and everything like this. It may be a lie, but it's a damn good lie. And I'll make the most of it. But it still didn't feel real. It never satisfied me. I felt sad. I felt lost. I felt dead. Dead inside. And dead all around. Now the reason for this is, as I said, when you die, your HUD, that is your ecstasy, your awareness of everything beyond what you can perceive with your fingers and your eyes and your nose and that, expands, and even your spiritual components that allow you to experience the spiritual world, your HUD expands so much that you can begin to experience other things whilst in the physical world. In fact, it's so expanded that it doesn't really fit back into your body. You have the heart of a spirit. but are contained within a physical form. And this, kind of aura around you of where you can't fit in all your consciousness into your body means that you have a permanent link to the spiritual world. You are permanently, always present in the afterlife as well as in the physical world. This is the waking dream, where you are mostly living but partly dead. Dead in the sense that your spirit is so expansive that it is still partly within the afterlife that you went to. It cannot fully come back because it expanded during the death experience, because you became almost fully spiritual in nature. You nearly, lost your connection with your body. And this is what leads to these weird experiences that you are convinced you are dead. Then, as I say, I came to terms with it, but I was still losing my mind. I was still getting to the point where I wanted to commit suicide. But then I was saved because I met a man who I've mentioned on here before. He goes by the name of Celtic God. It's his username on YouTube. And he told me about the waking dream. He had a great and has a very significant knowledge of paganism. Comes from a family of pagans, unbroken line of pagans, since when pagans were at a height. And he told me what his clan knew of the waking dream, and it suddenly made sense. And it was like a weight being lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't going insane. I was dead. I was partly dead, but I was also living, and that's the bit that you become blind to when you're in the waking dream. You don't have someone to tell you that, someone to guide you. You don't realise, you focus on the death bit because it's a new experience. It's something you can't explain. But once you realise that, yes, I died, but I didn't stay dead, but I also didn't come back fully to life. Or in essence, I did come back fully to life. I am living. I am here in this world. I am alive fully. My body is 100% alive. But my spirit, my soul, is partly within the realms of death. But mostly within my body. Still contained within my body. But it's that disparity almost. That disconnection. The fact that your soul has been slightly unravelled ever so slightly. That leaves you with that permanent connection. And that's why you feel dead, because you have an experience, constant experience with the afterlife, with the spiritual world, with the realms of death. You have a constant link to them. But this is the great thing. Once you get through that waking dream, you begin, it's not instantaneous, it takes a long time. 4 years it's been since my death, if you wish. 4 years. And it's only now, really, that I'm really starting to reap the benefits of having gone for that, because of my raised HUD, my raised expansion of my sort of abstract consciousness. I'm actually now beginning to learn more paganism through means that really I shouldn't. I'm gaining knowledge from ways that I wouldn't be able to ever have achieved if I hadn't gone through the experience that I had. I have got used to the fact that I have no fate. In fact, I love it, I relish it, because now I make my own fate. Pagans, we all have our own way of making our own fate. Your fate is partly determined by your own willpower and determination. If you're lazy, you were fated to be a bum. It wasn't that you were fated to be a bum, but you've kind of made yourself fated to be a bum simply because you're lazy and you don't want to achieve anything. You gain a drive. You need a drive to achieve, but still, nonetheless, as driven as you may be, you may not achieve because you're not fated to achieve certain things. Anyway, basically, we can't always live the lives that we want, is what I'm trying to say. But after the waking dream, you can, as long as you have enough willpower. As long as you have enough determination, you can make life your own. Now, obviously, coming back, you tend to have come back for a reason. I came back for love, okay? I was brokenhearted when I saw in the afterlife the tether that I had to the physical realm. I looked into the sky, and in the moon of the sky, I could see my body from a kind of like third person experience, out of body experience, but from a great distance away. And I saw my girlfriend, who was also in the car, bleeding to death, leg badly damaged and everything. And it broke my heart to see that she was there alone. And I wanted to go back to at least die with her, so she didn't die alone. To go back and die again with her, so she didn't die alone. She was awake and conscious, unlike myself. Now she survived, and she's doing okay now. But although she's significantly injured, put into a wheelchair and that. But what I'm trying to say is, my heartbreak of seeing her so badly hurt, and not wanting her to, what looked to me to die alone. I just wanted to go back and be with her, to hold her hand in those final moments. And it was that heartbreak that sent me back. I went through these waters, these black waters, to reach my body again. And it was a hard experience. Now, in the past, the reason why pagans have such a knowledge of this experience called the waking dream, this transitional phase that happens after death, and why we know what it is, what it's a consequence of, and what it can lead to, is ultimately leads to the position where I am now. I am someone who has no fate, who has an expanded HUD beyond that which I would have ever been able to expand without death experience. I have an expanded awareness, okay? On top of that abstract awareness, I have an expanded awareness anyway of life and everything. Everything's put into, perspective when you go through something like that. It humbles the man, so we say. And as a result of, being here, having this expanded consciousness, having this extremely large heart and things like this, this would, in ancient times, make me inferior because of my connection, my permanent connection to the spiritual realm, a druid. And that's not a druid of druidism, which was created in the 1800s. This is an ancient druid, a druid of the ancient pagan peoples, okay, the Celtic and Britannic peoples, essentially. And who were the druids? The druids were essentially religious, not priests, but there were religious figures within the Celtic peoples who were highly revered, highly respected, because people understood that people like myself, we have that greater connection. The druids had a greater connection to the spiritual realm, even more so than shamans. Shamans were highly respected, and almost every clan had its own shaman, a kind of witch doctor, if you wish, okay, who could communicate with the spiritual realm, who could perform magic. But druids were beyond that. They were of the gods themselves. Today we take the name of the hammers. We are the hammers of the gods. I am the hammer of Freya, the goddess who allowed me to return. And this experience, as I say, makes you, within Celtic society, it's not the fact that you've gone through the experience and survived the waking dream. It's the consequences of doing that. This expanded mind, this increased wisdom, this increased humility, this humbleness, but the willingness to do whatever needs to be done also. The fact that you have no fate, so that you can do what you want to do, even if in theory it's the wrong thing, but for the right reasons or whatever, you are capable of doing it. And this is what made the druids such an important part of ancient society, ancient pagan society, because they did become religious leaders, but also they were kind of almost, I suppose, like living saints amongst the pagans. That's the best way that I can kind of describe their position in society. And as I said, there was a great understanding of what they had gone through to get to their position. It's a rite of initiation, but not something that you do like almost like with college and that, where you haze to get into the Greek system in America and all the rest of it. It's not that. You don't go to the druids and go, I want, kill me so that I can become a druid, because they'll kill you and you probably won't come back. You have to go through this experience by yourself and then find the druids, survive the waking dream and find the druids. That's what had, or be sent to the druids. This is what happened in ancient times. You were sent to the druids if you'd gone through such a thing, so that you had the best chances as possible to survive this waking dream. Anyway, I think I've spoken enough, but if you have gone through that experience, or if you're currently going through it and you're suffering, I hope I've relieved your suffering. I know there's one person on here who found my channel, and I'm so honoured to have done the same for him as was done for me by a Celtic God. I have made him aware of what he's gone through, and relieved some of the suffering, I hope, and nudged him towards a greater journey. But if there's any more of you who have gone through this waking dream experience, or going through it, as I say, I hope this makes it easier for you to get through that transitional part. I hope it makes it understandable to you. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.